Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Willie. Hey Willie.
Hey, Cat.
Well, it's our last episode of 2025. Can you believe it? I mean,
No,
the year's
seems
just gone by so fast.
less like the old saying I've always heard, the older you get, the faster it goes.
Well, I don't have too much to say about that because I've just said how fast the year goes, so that tells you I'm getting up there. Well, I mean, it's a new year almost, and as we end the year, it's just natural, I think, that people start thinking about, will next year be better than this one, or or vice versa. Maybe you've had a great year, and you're thinking like, what will 2026 hold? Will it keep going strong or, that kind of thing? Do you find yourself, are you the person that makes resolutions or thinks about, what should change or what the next year might be like?
Well, I don't make resolutions per se, but I do try to, set goals. I don't know if you'd uh, call it resolutions, but I do try to set goals.
And does it seem like the beginning of a new year is a time that you set those more than other times?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we put an interesting question into our group, and so the listeners had a chance to respond, about how long after you make a goal or resolution, how long do you stick with it? And so do you have some information for us about that?
Yes, I do.
Because, we had a lot of options on there from like a day or less up to over a month. So, I'm curious to see what the outcome is so far.
Well, it looks like 40% those polled say that they keep them for more than a month before they break them.
Wow. I mean, that's almost half of our group, and 40%, that's a pretty good number that stick with it for, a month or more. Wow. I'm pretty shocked by that, but also impressed.
Yes, I am
Um,
too.
so how many were like, a week or something like that?
20%.
Yeah. Um, for me, I think it depends on what the goal is. Some of them I'm able to sustain longer than others. Um, so it would be hard for me to answer that, with just one answer because um, there have been times with certain goals or resolutions I've been able to, make them last the whole year, and then others, you know, I probably didn't even make it the first week. So, do you think it happens like, do we try to fix everything at once when the new
Yes,
year starts? Do we like make a big list of goals and, be
yes,
like, okay, I'm going to change everything I don't like?
yes. I think so. And, you know, you're like me, you set too many and you get overwhelmed, and then the, you know, it all goes haywire from there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is what happens with me. It's like if I get overwhelmed, I just shut down with all of it, and I'm like, you know, just forget them all. So, would we be better off to like maybe set, fewer goals, um, and stick with those? Do you think that would work better?
I
Maybe.
do. I do.
Okay. Well, what do you think is the number one resolution that people set?
I lose weight.
Okay. So the health and wellness, that is the number one category always. And lose weight, is definitely in that category of things that people say they want to do. And um, so that's the hard one, I think, to sustain long term because like we set the goal, but then we don't really make the plan of how we're going to do it. Or we make a plan that's not really realistic. It just sounds like, okay, I need to pick. So let's say we pick, I want to lose weight. So you could cut calories, right? I mean,
Right.
you could say, we're going to eat this many calories only. Or I'm going to eat, only fruits and vegetables, no sweets, no meat, no, uh, that kind of stuff. Um, and then also you could say that you want to exercise more because that's another way that you might lose weight.
Yes.
So what would you say probably people do for that? What's their plan to
Well,
exercise? Like I would say, join a gym. Probably gym memberships go way up, I would say, during New Year's.
I would say so. Yep.
And maybe, since people monitor their steps easily now, um, maybe they set a certain number of steps. Like, how
Mhm.
many do you, in a normal day, how many steps do you get in?
Well, a normal day, probably at least 10,000 because I like to walk. I've walked for years and I usually walk at least once or twice a day. So sometimes I will exceed the 10,000. It just depends, of course, on the weather. If it's raining or if it's really cold, I don't walk, but usually about 10,000 thereabouts.
Okay. So, do you have any plans to change that for the new year, or you are satisfied with your number of steps?
No, I think I'm satisfied with what I'm been getting, but
All
I
right.
do want to try to get a little bit more exercise in.
Okay, so what's your plan?
Well, my plan would be I need to lose some belly fat.
Okay.
So I'll probably
So,
try to do like some, you know, stuff I can do at home, like sit ups, push ups, that type of thing.
okay. So you have a plan do you have a plan for like how many you plan to do, or this many minutes, or this many
No,
times a week, or anything like that yet?
no,
Okay. So, we can see why a lot of people might stick with this for a month because, at first, maybe you've even got friends that, you know, walk with you or will exercise with you, join the gym, that kind of thing. It always helps, I think, to have a support, somebody, accountability partner, something like that. Um, but then, kind of the newness of it wears off or the soreness of it kicks in.
yeah,
And, I don't think people necessarily stop like all of a sudden, but it just kind of gradually, it's like, well, I don't think I'll walk today. I've got a headache or, whatever. And then you just kind of like ease yourself back into the routine that you had before. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I think it works.
yeah. I think that's right too.
Um,
And
and
like
and
me, which I've not done push ups or sit ups since PE, and that was many years ago. So I'm sure I won't be able to. get like 50 or 100 the first time. I'm probably lucky to get two.
Well, at least you're like in your mind, you sound like you're being realistic about, that you can't do 100 right off or something,
Right.
Hula hooping, is another possibility for you. I don't know if you have you hula hooped before?
Never.
It might be fun. Anyways, so that's something. I don't know how many hula hoopers we have out there, but it used to be a thing. All right, well, under health and wellness, and I know that some of these apply to you because, I know these things about you, but so we talked about not just losing weight, but eating healthier just to be, eating healthier foods. So, that probably is people that are going to try to eat more fruits and vegetables.
That would be me.
Okay, do you eat a fair amount of them every day? Uh,
No.
okay. So for me, I would probably say I want to at least have, one serving of fruit and one serving of vegetables is probably how I would start out per day. Because, I know you're supposed to have like, this many fruits and vegetables a day, but I already know that if I set that goal, I would not last on that goal. Um,
Uh-huh.
so, I just have to like downsize that and start with something that I think, I might could sustain. And if I make it through, the first month or the first week or whatever with my one fruit and my one vegetable, then I could try increasing it, maybe two fruits and still one vegetable for a while or that kind of thing. But, people are different. Some people jump right in and they get their 5 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables like every day already. So, um, so that is a, in the health and wellness, that's also part of the goal. Sleeping better, sleep hygiene, which is very important. But I struggle also with that one. So do you have that as a goal or do you sleep pretty well already?
No, I have that as a goal. I've been trying to get into bed earlier than what I usually do. I don't always get there, but yes, that's also one of my goals for the new year.
Okay, so how far are you from the mark of, like 6 to 8 hours of sleep?
Hmm. I'm probably 90% maybe.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, you don't have a big commitment there to get to where you need to be, it sounds like.
No.
So, going to bed at the same time every night, like not exercising, eating caffeine, all that stuff, supposedly helps you to sleep better and stay on a routine. So now, here's another one under health and wellness that's very popular is to drink more water.
I
I've never
don't drink
heard
enough.
I've never heard anybody say, I want to drink less water. So I know that you drink, not soda, like that's something you cut out.
Yes. Yes, I've
S-
just quit over a year and a half.
So what are some tips that helped you to, to sustain that because you're over the year mark?
Well, I we had a no pop challenge, 30-day challenge, me and some friends at that time. And some of them broke it, and I just after the 30 days I made it, and I just stuck with it.
Was
And
it hard?
I thought it would be harder than what it was, but it really wasn't a big deal for me. I mean, not like I thought it would be.
So
Which
what
I
did
wasn't a big pop drinker anyway. I drink, those little 10-ounce cans of Pepsi or Coke, like maybe one a day. But I mean, I didn't crave it, and I still don't.
what did you put in its place, if anything?
Well, tea. I like to drink tea. Usually 0 calorie or 5 calorie uh, diet tea, and I am struggling with water. So that's one of my goals. I need to drink more water than what I do. I barely average a bottle a day, which is, I've been off this week because of holidays. So I've drank even less water than what a normal work day I would drink. So yeah, water,
Yeah.
water.
Well, I mean, like in these things, it's like, I see they want you to drink like a gallon of water every day or, like, or even more. Some people drink more than a gallon. Um, that's a big change. So I don't see people going from like less than a bottle or one bottle up to a gallon or more. That's like big changes. So, I think over time, again, like making small changes that you can stick with and then increasing them as you can, to me, works better. All right. Along with drinking more water, some people need to cut back on like alcohol, for instance. And so they've made that a goal. Um,
Or
you know,
smoke.
it's a good goal, I think, because alcohol is, can be not good for the liver and things like that. So, I don't know how hard that is. I'm sure, it's like everything else. Some people have a really hard time, cutting back on certain things. So it might be sweets for one person, alcohol for another. Also, in that is cutting back on or stopping smoking. So, what are your thoughts on that? On ways that people can quit things, like smoking or alcohol?
Well, I've I've not I've never took up either habit, so I wouldn't know how hard it would be to quit, which I'm sure that it is. But and they make different things to help you to quit smoking.
Yeah, like that gum you can chew
Yeah,
and patches of, nicotine patches. Um, some people get hypnosis, a lot of different things people try. But some people like trade in. So here's what happens too. People trade one thing for another thing.
yeah,
So you might quit smoking and replace it with eating more
yeah,
or drinking more alcohol or, whatever. So, I guess you have to be careful of, what do you replace things with that you quit too.
yes,
So maybe if you started to exercise more, then that could be a positive like exchange, but you could just exchange for something that then you would have to quit, the next year. So, um, and the last one really, I think, in the health and wellness that people try to do, is to reduce stress. And that's a hard one.
yeah,
So, Do you find that's, something that you need to do too, or
Yeah, I think so.
does walking and, does that help you with stress?
Yeah, it does. 'Cause it seems to clear my mind and you know, get out in the fresh air and just try not to think about anything else but the next lap, you know. I think it
Um,
really helps.
what are some other things that help you reduce stress?
Uh, Reading.
That one doesn't work too well for me, but um, I think so having an animal, like petting an animal,
Yeah,
having a pet
yes,
is stress relief. All it can cause stress too, you know, depending on the animal and situation. Like
right.
I have had little raccoons, uh rolling in through the doggy door. So that in that case, animals, did not reduce my stress, but
Added to it.
yes, times, a million. But, like having a cat for a pet or a dog or, something like that, it gives you love and, snuggles with you or just, I don't know, even just entertains you, watching their personalities and them playing, so that can be stress relief.
Yes,
And I think listening to music too, or playing music if you're musical, that also could work. So, in the group, listeners, we'd love to hear some ways that you are um thinking about health and wellness for the new year and what works for you, what hasn't worked for you, and are you making any kind of goals in the health and wellness category? All right, you want to guess what the number two category is?
save money.
All right, it is money and finances. So people make their second goal to save money. And how successful do you think most people are at that goal?
I'm gonna say not very successful at all.
It's hard. I think once you get in the habit of it, um, it is hard to break. So to
But it's
save,
getting into the habit that is the
yes. So, I think one way you could do it without really it involving you too much is just to say, if you're working, deduct this much from my check, to go into an account, a savings account, or Christmas club account or whatever. Uh, that way, it's not like you having really too much to do with it. It just automatically goes there.
right.
Because I do find sometimes, and not as much now because I seldom have money, you know. So I think a debit card and I think the spending is a lot easier now than when I was, having money, like where you actually had to have cash. Because
Oh yeah.
now you can you can shop like anytime you want to. You could buy something. You can spend money from home, from, right this second during the podcast, we could spend money. Whereas used to, before you had the internet online and all these things, access, you would actually have to go someplace and pay with money. So that limited your spending window for sure.
Yes, it
Um,
did.
my grandmother used to have like a Prince Albert can, and she would like put money in it, and that's what she saved money in. But then sometimes, she would forget like where she put the Prince Albert can. So
Oh goodness,
yeah, so that's like saving money and then losing.
losing it at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, saving money. Do you have any tips for people to make it easy to save some money?
You're asking he who has trouble.
Well, we're trying to all help
Well,
each other.
well, you know, prices are going up every day, but I would say try to shop bargains.
Look for
You know,
coupons, digital.
look for coupons, which is a rarity anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
Do you remember when, in the newspaper,
yep, the Sunday paper. Yep, I
you,
used to buy one every week
and you'd
just for the
want that,
coupons.
yes, to pull the coupons out.
Yep.
And some people would like in the machines, they would pull out the coupons.
Oh, yep,
Yeah. So,
yep.
and then there were coupon clubs. People get together, and like,
Swap coupons.
yeah,
Yep,
we've come a long way.
we sure have.
Well, so, those are all some good ideas.
And I guess, and if you don't have to have it, don't buy it. I know that's hard, but if it's a want and not a need, and you really can't afford it, then you know, don't spend the money.
because that leads to the next category, the next one in the category. When people, besides saving money, they want to, one way of doing it is to pay down your debt. So, you don't save money immediately that way. I mean, let's say you have a high interest credit card or something. You could pay that off, and that's going to take, you know, X amount of your money initially. But over time, you're going to save all that high interest that you're paying.
Yes,
But you might be one that falls into the trap of paying it off and then going back and, you know, using it again. So then you are in a worse shape because you have less money because use that money to pay it off. And now you have the debt again with the high interest.
right.
So and closing accounts, can be bad for credit. So, you might just like some people cut them up, so they can't use them, but they don't close them.
Yes.
So, definitely paying down debt. Um, and creating a budget. Do you keep a budget, like a written budget?
No, but I need to.
So, that's a tip idea for people looking for, you know, if this is on your goal list or resolutions, you maybe start on your phone app or, if you still like writing it down, but just making a budget because also following the budget, not just creating it, but sticking to it.
Right.
And an emergency fund, how important do you feel like that is, and do you have one?
Well, it is important, and no, I do not.
So is that something that you are considering for the new year?
Yes, it is.
And again, I think like let's say we only put $10, each month into the emergency fund. If you don't have any emergencies, you're going to end the year with $120.
Yes.
So, that's a small amount. Um, Not overwhelming, I don't think, in most cases. And, um, $120 would get you some place to stay for the night if something happened. I mean, it would be enough that you could stay someplace and get something to eat, and it would be a start. And if you can put more, like when you get like if you get income tax return money back, a refund, or birthday money, or anything extra, you could put into your emergency fund some of it. And you could have a couple $100
Hmm.
just by making small um amounts over time. Then, though, you don't want to take your emergency fund and be like, oh, I want to go to that concert and I don't have money, but I can take my emergency fund and then I'll put it back. I think that's where, like when we bargain about, we'll do it now and put it back, I think that's where this one kind of falls apart sometimes.
Yes. So too, you use it for something else from what it's supposed to be used for, and then when you actually do have an emergency, then you don't have that fund that you can use for it.
And it goes back to what you were saying about want versus need. Like, you want to go to the concert. Do you
But can you afford to
need?
go to the concert?
Yes, yes. So, and then, another idea some people have is that they will invest or they start planning for retirement. And I think people along the ages of where we are, would be in that group of probably thinking of retirement and that planning for it. So, I don't know that that's a goal like that a lot of people think about um, at every age. Do you? Or
No, I don't believe so.
what do you have any suggestions for people planning for retirement or investing? Like any suggestions you think might work?
I would I would suggest if you're somebody like me that doesn't know anything about stocks and bonds and securities and all that, to contact a a person that has that expertise, like a broker or you know
Yeah.
accountant or somebody like that
Well,
that
and
help
that
invest.
usually you can get a free consultation and, with, with at least, some people offer that. So it wouldn't cost you anything to meet with someone and, hear the options.
Right.
I do know, like, a lot of people wanted borrow money against their 401k or, their retirement, and that's not always a good idea
No, it's not.
because it could, now, of course, this is not every case because a lot of people have more than one and, everybody's got different situations, but, sometimes it could like mean that you had to work longer because to pay it back if that's your intention. Like if you only have one and that's your intention, then you have to pay back way more than you borrowed or took out. So, um, but I mean, sometimes obviously, if it was going to be like, okay, you can't have this emergency surgery, Obviously you would have to, the need for that would be more than the need for your retirement. So, these are not just we're not telling anyone like how to do any of these. These are
No,
just
no.
ideas that, you may want to consider, things that we've heard people say or done ourselves. So, all right, anything else you can think of in the money and finances, that would help someone for the new year?
Just just try to, save as much money as you can and, build that emergency fund as best you can and, just try to make your money work for you, not against you, as I heard someone say one time.
That's a good one, and just think about, like our area in London, Kentucky, was hit by that devastating tornado in May of this year. So, you know, emergencies unexpected like that could happen, and you know, it's just good to be as prepared as you can.
Yes.
All right, personal and mental growth. Um, you know, this one I think so. Some of these are very interesting, like keeping a journal. How many people journal every day or often?
If you're like me, you don't have time. But I know there are some people out there that do that. I myself kept one for years, but till I got to where I didn't have time to keep it up anymore. So I quit.
Did you keep your journal to go look back over
Yes, I have every one of them.
to see your growth of, like what was important at that time that you wrote about
I think
versus,
I think I think it was more of a diary than a journal.
mm-hmm.
Everything that happened during the day and what I did and what so and so did and
Well, now that we know these are out there, all of Barberville will be looking to find Willie's journals.
we're talking 30, probably 30 years ago or so.
Wow. Well, it would be interesting to, do you plan to release them at any time?
No, no, they're they're not that entertaining.
Let us be the judge of that as the readers. Okay, so some people do find journaling like it takes their mind and it puts it in a focus of, and if you're having a stressful day, sometimes writing about it, um, helps you to get that off your chest, so to speak. And so journaling can be good. And also sometimes some of the journals will have like a quote or a question, and, answering that kind of keeps your mind sharp too.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
all right, and other things, for mental health and personal growth would be like learning something new, like a new language, play how to play an instrument, some new skill, like uh, maybe you find that you're good at painting or at building something or cooking. So do you have any plans for that in the new year?
No,
Well, I
I
know at
may
one
try to cook more than what I usually do.
so
You
would
know,
that
I'm,
be like healthier, so that
yeah,
you could have healthier food or
yes,
okay. Well, I think that's an interesting one. And I know at one time you mentioned that you would like to play piano and read music and
yeah.
um
I'm say that's uh, lofty. I'd say that ain't gonna happen.
Well, you could keep it in the back burner, and another year you might have time for it. Um,
That might
re
be a retirement goal.
okay, well, you know, it's good to have those. And what reading more books, you know, some people set a goal for how many books they're going to read in a year. How many do you read in a year? Do you have an idea?
uh, maybe, of course, I don't read every day because, but if I read when I have time or I feel like it. Um, maybe 10, maybe this
Okay.
past year, possibly, maybe
Um,
less.
and do you have a favorite like genre of books that you
Biographies.
oh, cool. I like those too. People are fascinating, which is why we do backstory sessions. Um, Start therapy or some type of self-care routine. You know, I think therapy, uh, it maybe has like a negative connotation, but I really feel like therapy could be good for everyone to experience because it's someone to like channel some different approaches or thoughts, to help guide you to better, a more positive thinking, I think. Because sometimes, when you are like depressed or in a lot of grief, a lot of people go, after the loss of a loved one. Um, Sometimes it's hard to see things clearly because you have that kind of that fog of grief over you. So it's kind of someone to reach in there and, kind of shine a little light to some different paths for you to look at.
Yes,
So, I think if you're
nothing
out
wrong with
there,
that.
yeah, if you're out there thinking like that could be beneficial, you definitely should not avoid doing that just because you're afraid that people will think it means that you're, nuts or something like that. I mean,
No,
people go for all kinds of reasons, and
I do.
I
It
think,
helps them.
yeah, and even saves marriages or makes it clear that they don't need to be saved and, people can move on in a healthier way. So, I'm all for that, I think.
I am too. If you
So,
need it, get it.
yeah. All right. Well, this, relationships and social life kind of just go right after the growth in mental health because this is something, I think is very important. Spending time with family. Often, I know when my parents were alive, people get really busy, and family time is like, it seems like one of those things that you can borrow from the time. So it's like your work stuff comes first and then this and family like they're kind of the unconditionals. And so you can be like, well, I don't have to go see them this week because I need to do this, this, and this. But then, when they're not here anymore,
Mhm.
um,
Exactly.
you find out that,
You
that
wish,
was,
well, I should have taken the time.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
definitely think, if you have a good family, um, it's worth looking at putting that and more time with them on your New Year's resolution list.
definitely.
Reconnecting with friends. How important is this, do you think?
I think it's very important.
I think with social media, it's become like you get to see everybody's posts that, like every day, what their kids look like, what they're doing, what they're eating,
Hmm.
you know.
Sometimes you can know too much about them.
Well, I mean, I think you don't really like a lot of my friends. I love them and I think, yeah, we're still friends. But if I look at like how much time do we communicate, really it's like ever so often making a comment on a post or something like that. Or, liking their photos or something. And I feel like I know what's going on, and they probably feel like they know what's going on with me, but it's like indirect knowing. It's not the same as when we, before we were Facebook friends or whatever, where you actually had to call someone or meet with them.
Right.
So, I have thought of making that a goal for the new year that I would pick someone each month that I would consciously, for that month, try to have interaction with, through messaging or a phone call or something like that.
Hmm.
Because then, in a year, you have reconnected with 12 people
Oh.
minimum just by doing one a month. So, I feel like, that's something that I do want to do. Communicate better. That can be a hard one, especially since a lot of communication is texting and, written like that. It's easy sometimes to misunderstand, I think, or not understand what the person means. Um, so just,
Yes. Misunderstanding is the.
yeah, and it can happen, like if the texts get delayed and then they all pop, in like a different sequence than they were sent.
Right.
Um, it can make things look
Or or if it's a talk to text and it types something else, and yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen a funny example of that just yesterday. Um, where it put the wrong word, and it was really hilarious. But yeah, we won't exactly go into that one. Um,
No.
And so setting boundaries, this is one that I really struggle with, on both sides, on me being the person setting the boundaries, and then with the other person, setting the boundaries. What are your thoughts on boundaries?
Well, I think they're important, and but it's hard to figure out when you need to set them. I think.
And so, what is it for you that tells you it's time to set a boundary?
Well, I guess just have instinct that tells you when to set it. Like I've had to set some recently, and it's hard. I mean, you know, especially with like if someone that you thought was a decent person and turns out completely opposite. It's just it's hard to do, and it's hard to judge when you need to do it.
Yeah. Well, so do you communicate that to the person? Um, like I'm not going to be communicating with you as much anymore. because I need space or I need, we're going on different paths or whatever. Or
Well,
or do you just leave them to figure out and
I
like
think I think they'll figure it out. I think.
I think if something has happened, like you got in an argument, or sometimes there's a clear break, or reason why. Um,
Yes.
but sometimes people just stop communicating with you. Um, and I think that's very hard not knowing. So I feel like with a boundary, um, especially if it's been a very close relationship that was important, supposedly to both people. Um, I feel like it's kind of cruel to leave them not knowing why.
But
Also, could be hurtful, like really hurtful. But, and like you said, sometimes you feel like people will figure out why it is.
it's what I was going to say. If like certain people, they should know, what happened, what the situation was, and
Yeah.
go from there.
And so boundaries are hard, and making a decision to set one is hard. And so, if someone stops talking to you for a period, um, then you're forced with, either chasing after them for answers and or just putting your own boundary to say, I have to respect that you set a boundary, and my boundary is if you can't communicate that to me, then my boundary has to be in my best interest and protect me from now going forward.
Yeah.
So, I find boundaries to be really hard. And I've seen a lot of articles written about, ch adult children and their parents and boundaries where they, are going no contact with their parents.
Mm,
And
that's terrible.
I just really feel like these no contact things, boundaries, would would be for the most extreme cases where, there was abuse, or something going on. Um, but just little disputes, I feel like it's best to like try to work them out,
Oh yeah, I do too.
especially where families and grandkids and, all of that gets mixed in together. But boundary setting, that is something that people will choose for their New Year's resolution. And so, good luck to everybody having to deal on either side of that. Um, all right. Relationships and social life, meeting new people, um, and or dating, intentionally. Like, so meeting new people, how important do you think that is for a resolution?
Eh, I guess it just depends on the person.
Yeah, some people have like a big social circle already, and I guess it's like, all right, well, if I meet someone new and they're interesting and then, whatever, great. but I don't know how many people put that on their list of resolutions.
Yeah, I'm like you. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know that anyone's ever told me that was there.
Me either.
So, well, this next one I can attest to, organization and productivity, getting organized, decluttering, minimalist. All right. I am in the midst of and have been like for, every year I put this on my resolution list. Like, I'm going to get rid of some things. Um, and every year, I've ended up with more stuff. And so this year, I have gotten rid of a lot of stuff. I mean, you can't really tell it just yet, but it's a start. Like boxes of stuff, bags of stuff. So, I mean, it is measurable stuff. It's not like I threw away, five birthday cards or something like that. I mean, I really have in at least one room I have started in, I have really gotten rid of stuff. And it does like feel freeing to me.
Hmm.
So, I really think that I will continue with this resolution into the new year, and I think that, I think this time it it will be sustainable for me.
Okay.
Now,
Uh,
will it be? Because it's hard to not, if I see bargains or things like that, it's hard for me to say no. Even if I don't need them, I'm thinking like, oh, well, the mystery meats, could use this. This would be a great costume if we wrote a play about this, or, so and so would love this. Let's get that. So, um, that's what makes it hard for me.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I am trying on that one, and I'm going to carry that into my New Year's resolution. Better use of time. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear this one a lot, but I don't really, now that I'm retired, I don't really have that issue, I guess, as much as, and like my parents, or passed away, and my son, lives a distance away, and so it's not like this one's not as much a priority for me as it probably is for some people, depending on where you are in life.
Yes. That's that would probably more pertain to me.
I was getting ready to say you come to mind. So, do you
Yeah.
have better use of your time as a goal?
Yes. Yes.
And
And managing and also managing my time better.
so how do you plan to do that?
Well, try to try to show up on time for work is one of them.
Great.
Yes.
Because
Just, you know, try not to waste time.
yeah. Well,
I don't.
you've gotten a lot of good ideas, it sounds like, for your New Year's resolution. Um, Along with better use of time, it is like a lot of people set like so many minutes on their phone or social media time. like they cut that down, or they cut TV time down, or they pick something where they feel like they're spending more of their time. Maybe it's driving time to work, their commute. They try to get another job closer, or cut down on some of or they make better use of that time by listening to an audiobook or something, so they're studying their lines for their play or whatever while they're commuting. So it's
Yes.
just some ideas there. And finishing projects. Do you find that's hard for you? Are you a person that starts a lot of things but never finishes, or
Well, see, my time is somewhat limited because, I work two jobs. But I try not to start like a lot of projects at once, maybe. So I would say no.
yeah, I'm not like I don't think that's a a problem for me either that I plan to address. I I would give myself pretty high marks in finishing things. Um, I've just kind of always been that way of, starting something, seeing it through to completion. So,
Yeah, me too.
all right. So, some people will look at life and say, I need to find my passion, my purpose. Um, and that could be, a hobby, starting something new like that, or creating something, traveling, volunteering. How many people will put that on their list if they want to volunteer some of their time or give back in some way. Um, Maybe they want to change jobs because they realize that they're, not on the path, or the job isn't what they thought it would be, I guess, in, fulfillment wise.
Right.
So, do you have anything like that on your list?
Nope.
Well, I do know,
I'm
that like,
where
ah,
I
go ahead.
I'm happy where I am. So no, I'm not planning to switch jobs.
Yeah, hear that? Yes, employers. Um, I think traveling more is something I could see you wanting to do.
That would be great if I had opportunity.
Yeah. So, I guess these are like the major categories. And we've talked a lot about why that they fail, because we try to make too many changes at once, or, too big of changes. And, for some people though, it's all or nothing. They jump right in and they're either gonna sink or swim. So, these are generalizations. They're not, one size fits all.
No, 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 they're not.
Well, I hope that something that we have shared will be helpful to the listeners. It always causes me to reflect on things as we're talking about, change and looking forward to the new year. Has 2025 been a good year for you?
Well, see, yeah, I think so.
Well, um,
No,
so in
part of
20,
a lot of part of a lot of great accomplishments and moments and experiences this year. So I think it's been a pretty good year.
All right. Well, here's the thing too. I'm gonna post this in the group, but I'll give you the first little chance to answer. What's one thing that you're giving yourself permission to stop doing in 2025?
To stop doing
Mm-hmm.
being late.
And that is appreciated by all those who are like, be here
Including
on time,
that.
people. And I'm one of those. But I think that's a good one. And I'm going to say, that I'm going to give myself permission to stop putting other people's needs above my own, which is a
That,
really hard, like in my life. I've always been the other way, where if someone else needed something, like that need was prioritized over mine. Because in some ways it felt selfish, I guess, to like say, well, my need is, more important. But now I've reached a point where that's my goal for 2026 is to prioritize myself.
that's that is a great one for you.
I hope it will be. It's a hard one. It's a very hard, and I hope it's sustainable. You know,
Do too.
it, and I don't mean it, in like a negative way, but I shouldn't even have to say that. So
No,
that's why it's hard for me. So because it's very different than my life has been and the way I viewed things. So you know,
well, that you
here's
feel better about yourself.
well, I do think like it is about self-protection and
Yes,
you know, self-respect. Um, and those things all come with saying that you're important enough to be a priority to yourself. So, I'll just leave that there and hopefully as we go into 2027, when we're having this discussion again, that I'll have a great report to say, I did it and this is how it's changed me.
right.
All right. So, I
Something
hope,
forward to.
well, I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas and that 2025 has been, at least a year that you survived and that you are headed into 2026 with some plans, whether they're resolutions or goals or just thoughts, but, things tools that will make you likely to be more happy and successful.
Yes, and uh, I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope 2026 treats you just right.
All right. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.